of the thickness of begins again in the solar system, which it swings past at close range in July 2031. So, this highly elongated is followed by another Ganymede flyby that Europa in 42 and Callisto in the high inclination exploration of the region and gas giant transits as they pass in December 2034. The spacecraft entered orbit as opposed to a flyby. The first snow allows it to come kilometers, very close range. Also, laser 20 meters, 60 spot and 3.9 inches vertical resolution tidal of Ganymede, with the fuel running out, juice orbited and impact the surface of Ganymede in late 20. This mission significant years provides a wealth of data in the Jovian system, as well as improving the general scientific understanding. Also, in to determine potential landing sites for exploration, further explore Europa and timeframe. From Wang and by this period have finished deploying two vast satellites, Wang, which together shape the country's position in global space infrastructure. While operated by state satellite achievement of 12,000 in low Earth orbit in 2025, Shanghai Spacecom satellite support for site is 2,000 satellites by 2032. Different institutions driven support China's broader strategy nation coverage. Huawei began deployment with a 10 satellite launch in December 2024. In response to the perceived strategic threat, China's government orchestrated a surge in constellation launches during 2025 and 26, backed by state directed and supported by national and commercial launch providers. Medium and heavy lift vehicles, including the Long March 5B and newer Long March 12, enabled the satellite network to rapidly scale. Beijing-based company Landspace to the effort with the introduction of methane-fueled Zhuk 3, who is reusable for reduced launch costs and turnaround time. Put over the next 5 years, the launch more than 10,000 and full activation of 4,992 satellites. This allowed China to meet its deployment schedule and the regulatory deadline. Global coverage, it established China as a direct rival to Western infrastructure. Qianfan, the sister constellation, began deployment in August 2024 when a long march delivered the first 18 satellites. A series of additional launches met the widely publicized goal of 648 satellites by December 20. Halfway through the 1,296 2026 onward, SS ramped its operations to several launches using the medium-lived launch 6A and launch the latter of the reusable variant, along with partially reusable 3, which offered to be comparable to SpaceX's Falcon 9. These efforts pushed 28 and 12,000. The constellation reached a total of 32. Together, Wang Yanfan, China's active broadband fleet, second only to Starlink's projected 42,000 by 2033, and set stage for Hong Kong, a planned 10,000 satellite network to this total even higher. As part of the broader digital Beijing's effort to expand digital across these observation options state-backed satellite services, reinforcing China's political influence and geopolitical influence throughout the global south. With low Earth orbit becoming increasingly congested, China has begun to integrate electric propulsion thrusters, on AI guidance for collision avoidance, and dedicated deorbit systems into the latest oversee traffic using an advanced platform designed to track tens of thousands of objects. Its capability to cover 100,000 satellites and beyond, a reflection of China's long-term ambitions in orbital management. Geopolitically, the position of and beyond fund a major gap with the United States. A decade earlier, analysts had described Southeast Asia as a strategic vulnerability for China. Vulnerability no longer exists. With both constellations operational, China controls a broadband system at roughly two the size of Starlink. Its global ambition. Dozens of countries now rely on Chinese satellites, either by preference or necessity. Digital and orbital domains. Concerns about crowding, competition, and China's achievement tens of millions of people now reliable affordable internet for the first time. Potential to reach hundreds of millions as terminal prices fall. Fast response can operate with greater speed and confidence. Business, research, and schools tap high bandwidth tools for previous the completion of Geopol and Tianfan marks a milestone in China's rise as a technological breakthrough that elevates the nation's role in communications. It also highlights the pressing imperative to ensure Earth's orbital environment for future generations. Next event, the general AI is becoming a trillion-dollar market. The early beginnings of generative AI is a subset of artificial intelligence data model based on existing data sets could reach the broader evolution of neural networks and applied deep learning. While the foundational concept of neural networks first emerged in the 20th century, it took until the 2010s of generative AI to begin making strides, largely from exponential advances in computational power, algorithms, and the availability of vast data sets. Generative adversarial GANs GANs are a major milestone first demonstrated in 2014 in API neural networks are given a training set and compete with each other to create better. This process is repeated rapidly during each cycle, resulting in a final creation is often distinguished from an existing object first ever seen. Became aware of the content on this person does not exist, which greater advancements emerged with large language models. So as with 175 remarkable ability to generate human links across diverse opportunity for Sensitivity podcasts, writing essays in various languages. Version 3.5 public late 2022 as Gen followed the powerful G4. Online members of multiple that Gen to several areas at the time, combining realistic and music, voices, and even video. These models led to speculation of the first artificial general intelligence. However, concerns arose over the use of such technology and other harmful content, as well as the potential of many traditional approaches. In July 2023, American Federation of Television and 160,000 media began a strike against studios in protest of competition, work, and generative AI. But the march of technology could not be stopped. With each new advance, generative AI drove down the cost of production, decreased the time required to create content, and empowered both individuals and small enterprises to access tools once exclusive to corporations. The democratized technology around the globe allowed even without specialized skills knowledge to harness its power. In the second half of the 2020s, AI powered personal assistants became capable of generating entire new movies. With just a few commands, a film could now be made based on a user's own personal tastes and preferences. A comedy of 90 minutes duration, for example, perhaps even featuring a deep user themselves along with specific themes. Although initially a free service, this capability in cost and soon widespread availability of personal by 2030, the market for generative AI nearly 50 growing from 23 billion to over $1 trillion revolutionizing the industry such as entertainment, journalism, and gaming. Video games now frequently AI generated which have players in movie scenes easily edited to increase the intensity of a certain emotion without needing a real human to reenact the scene. Many psychologists now generative AI not also include subjects like literature. It can also produce a customized learning material catering to their basic level of virtual teachers can provide students workspace continue to evolve, increasingly prevalent as a collaborator and amplifies human creativity. It has transformed numerous other fields, architecture, fashion, to address the misuse, for instance, for deepfakes, many control have now this includes better detection methods, inherent safety. We anticipate the International Space Station, the International Space Station which first became operational in November, has now reached the end of its lifespan. 15 years, it continued 2010s and into the extensions of along with additional that its earlier timeline. By far the largest human object it's 18 kilometers and 20 hertz. Microgravity break biotechnology help to monitor natural disasters and real future space of long-term spaceflight, future solar system. However, the ISS damage with solar radiation temperature extreme daily expansion through docking and undocking spacecraft collisions with space significant NASA had proposed ending by 2028. But in 2022, the Biden administration extended to 2031. Steered remote Pacific, known as Point Spacecraft Graveyard, late 2030 is decelerated by forward thrusters, altitude gradually decrease. The Senate much faster re-enters the atmosphere, the first followed by the upper module, the this, which underwent some 3.1 on operation of the station from there, and $1.8 billion on cost savings for areas, commercial or scientific. Another major deal following year, China hires its station. Anticipate 31 is Europe major space and exploration. 1966 and 2020 all achieved successful moon landing. It's a single spacecraft on the me. Europe lagged behind major space agencies. China all its moon landings. The European Space Agency (ESA) provided instruments and independent lunar. This 2020s interest in moon exploration surged with the program. China and expanding ambitions and commercial led by private companies. They developed our first ever dedicated lunar lander. This consists of three element LDE for ensure a precise journey to and soft landing and its specific payloads as 1,500 330 pounds. Pounds would allow the of infrastructure covers specific work achieved. Ariane 6 launches 2031. And so this focuses on establishing lunar dedicated payloads along with energy laying the ground conditions for extended 14 days, where temperature with capability to survive also versatile enough to advance in any region 15-meter at unexplored reach. Missions with occur every 2 years, such as delivering more complex partnerships, for instance, with helping to a long anticipate is a robotic spacecraft sent to having launched a series of flybys. It deploys a lander in 1931 near Venus in 1978 and the USSR's Vega in 1985. 63-minute descent by parachute. This sphere-shaped probe samples the air, taking measurements of its chemical composition and other properties down to the surface. This data, more detailed than any previous mission, helps in understanding the atmosphere's origin, how it has evolved over time, and how and why it is different from those of Earth and Mars. It determines a history of the water on Venus, such as the presence of oceans in the past, as well as previously unknown processes at work in the lower atmosphere. Before it reaches the surface, the Da Vinci Plus probe takes the first ever high resolution photos of the planet's intriguing rigid terrain, tesserae, to explore the origin of tectonic the Venus and Mars similar to Mars descent Mardai, and reveals the force detail. The probe's other instruments include two spectrometers to detailed in situ survey and trace isotope ratio and structure to measure the atmosphere during entry and descent as they mature, providing another reason for studies. A sister mission is also taking place at with next event two World Trade Zero. 3 decades after the terrorist ground zero has some two World Trade Center final launch tower of the 16-acre site is now opening as new global headquarters of designed by Ford and built for Silver State Batteries. The skyscraper rises 1,226 feet above 200 ground shaped transport hub and shopping complex at the center, the real World Trade Center. Its 55 floors contain nearly 186,000 square meters, 2 million square feet of space with capacity for up to 10 employees. American Express is both the sole owner and occupant owned by the Authority of New York and New Jersey under a long-term. The company is relocated from its previous headquarters at the nearby 200 Bedford Street, which had served as its head since 1986. At street level, the new building fills the last conspicuous gap between beside the Oculus and 9/11 Memorial. It becomes the second tallest tower in Florida, only by the 531-meter or 1,706-foot World Trade Center. From more distant major peak to lower Manhattan, joining gives it a commanding presence, particularly and where recent incomplete inside now fully developed. The tower consists of several slender interlocking glass frames that step back as they rise. These setbacks create three terraces and six corner gardens, providing more than an acre of outdoor space with panoramic views of and the surrounding mountains. Greenery is integrated throughout the vertical alongside flexible offices, communal facilities, and fully electric and ground energy efficiency. The tower reflects the growing emphasis on and environmental performance in corporate architecture. The uncomplicated effort to stop zero and change it's while the COVID-19 pandemic American Express ultimately revived the project by committing to own and operate the entire ceremony of groundbreaking in July 2026 only marked the start of the main construction. Five centers on the southern edge, south of Liberty Park, the Memorial Court. It's outside the principal surrounding the Memorial Trade Center, therefore, the central office cluster and fills a skyline gap. For an entire generation, Ground Zero was characterized by absence, first as an enormous void, and later by construction sites, temporary structures, and unfinished. By 20, it has become a fully of transport, culture, public space, and demonstrating how a city can preserve the memory of its darkest to of the Stad 0.8 mile canal through Norwood Peninsula. The tunnel is 49 meters, 60 and 36 or 100 water depth of 12 meters, 39 for her to grid coastal expression. First proposed in 1875, then 100 project began construction at 2.7 billion, about 5 years to complete. It required the removal of 8 million tons of rock to park passage. Initial in 2030, later the initial 2026 estimate was the world's first full-scale mission on the tunnel operated with strict safety and vessel weight and each and a very light system similar to aircraft signals. Only 5 ships of power capacity of about 400 meters. Large vessels have a point 0.5 meters on side, tested in modeled stability. Pilots guide ships longer than 70 meters, while speed limit a further layer of safety. A typical vessel moving at 5 knots can pass through 15 minutes. Smaller recreational craft may also use the passage during designated time. The next event that we anticipate is India has fluorocarbons, HFCs. In 1987 was productive sensitive response for ozone depletion. These included chlorophene hydrocarbon, hydro CFCs. CFCs and HCFCs have a wide range of industrial applications, such as aerospace, agriculture, air conditioning, electronics, fire protection, flexible and rigid foam, laboratory measurements, and refrigeration. Produced Mostly in developed hydrophobic HFCs to replace CFCs and HCFCs pose no because unlike CFCs and chlorine, they are however greenhouse gases with very high global warming potential. GW 5 times greater than CO2 by measured per molecular basis. Atmospheric concentration was very low. It began to grow rapidly in the years following the known as super greenhouse gases. Its use of HFCs combined their high global warming could undercut the benefits expected from the reduction of other carbon dioxide and methane. It was calculated that HFCs could add a potentially disastrous 0.5 degrees Celsius to global average temperatures by the end of the 20th century. Like other greenhouse gases in the 1950s, HFCs have other international negotiations. In 2016, the Declaration on Reduction and the use of HFCs. In October 2016, leaders from 170 nations meeting at the summit of the UN program reached a group accord to phase out hydrofluorocarbons in an amendment to the original Montreal Protocol. While as a major achievement, there were differences on the time schedule of reduction. Starting in 2019, 100 developed nations by 2020. However, a small reviewed for its insisting their economy needed to grow. Among this was India, the world's third largest emitter of greenhouse gases and third biggest air pollution. The chemical replace agencies requiring better trained and better paid people to design, install, and maintain equipment such as air conditioners safely and correctly. Store HFC applications. The Council of Energy, Environment, and Water estimates that the total cost of phasing out HFC vehicles could reach up to $1 billion. India, Pakistan, and the United States years HFC by 2030. This plateau would be full effects reductions the vast majority of HFCs eliminated by the late 2040s. Bangkok is being abandoned due to flooding, with a population of over 2 has been sinking underwater for a disaster of epic scale, much of the city being abandoned. This has occurred for various different reasons. First and foremost, the city is just swampy coast. Today, skyscrapers, highways, and urban development. Enormous concrete and steel has been pushed on the soft clay beneath, causing the soils to descend by up to 5.3 centimeters per year. By of the megalopis, megalopis was already under sea level, a trend that would only become worse in the following decades. The illegal tapping of groundwater has been another major factor. Many of the city's residents have been continuously pumping up groundwater, both for their use and to sell as a commodity, removing a natural layer and resulting in further destabilization of the soil. Rising sea levels due to global warming have been yet another factor, eroding the coastline at a rate of 4 centimeters a year, while the increasing severity of monsoon rains has led to longer and more devastating floods. The explosive growth of Bangkok in recent decades, making it one of the fastest Southeast Asia. Has dealt seriously with areas of land that that had in the 20th been used to vessel district and also provided way for rapid urbanization of the Chao River where the soft soil supported large portions of megalopolis are well below sea level. Government response during proven inadequate. A lack of clear policy doing to the overall solutions have mostly erosion of the shore. Combined with over 20 centimeters has resulted in whole Bangkok being permanent for a million buildings, forcing their occupants to in many areas have also been evacuated as the risk of flooding proved too costly for chance inside the state, while the government struggles to just as the capital sinks. Most unimaginable stress this time, as a result of such huge population displacement, economic and social upheaval in the region is having a significant impact. Efforts are underway to numerous historical monuments and constructed entirety. Due to the scale of the coming years, the situation for Bangkok will only worsen as more and more of the city by the end of this century. The entire city. The next event that was perennial corn becoming crop introduced agriculture. All major grain crops have been annual or short-lived perennial grown survive for just one growing season. They die off once harvested, and then a brand new crop must be grown to take their place. This requires vast soil erosion, and disrupting the nitrogen cycles. Between 600 and 10,000 Common Era, the United States of its soil erosion was nearly a bill at risk by the 21st century. Land surface had been converted for agriculture, converted since 150 years. This situation was exacerbated by rapid population for meat product economies, increasing production of biofuel, crop management. Advances occurred in 2013, giving a huge boost in Africa. By the early 2030s, this has going through crops provide revolution by growing continuously for 2 or more years. They are far more efficient than traditional fertilizer, pesticides, and pesticides. They can store carbon, soil quality, and manage nutrients better thanks to their systems. Ciphering of leads in paving the way to crops. Increase in decline since 1980 is now beginning to challenge decade climate change begin to accelerate. The next event we anticipate are steps of seeds becoming commonplace. Stem cell pharmacy in now sees stem cell collection services for use in devices. Personalized and targeted treatments available for generating very bodily tissues. Next, that we in 2031 already in UK lifestyle choice rather than the substitution from almost to just began in the 90s. Increasing pressure, work and money together world achieve ever greater the decline of religious institutions carry this. In addition, increasing numbers of are making it difficult for some solution reality to increase people spend increasingly less online experiences. So, of per couple, the UK, other Western, combined with have significant during the demographic. The next is job become expensive, costing hundreds of where two-thirds of lowering prices. Also, agriculture, which is increasingly in for biofuels. Pay and working also been a factor. Many young farmers are now abandoning their lands and heading to the cities in search of better and more high. The next event paid in 2031 after the success of the movie Titanic. Director James Cameron began took almost 10 years to make his science fiction epic Avatar 2009. This was a landmark for 3D technology and CGI with numerous accolades: Best Art Direction, Best Cinematography, and Best Visual Effects, and nominated for and Best Director. It also won the 67th Golden Globe Awards for Best Motion Picture, Drama, and nominated for two others. At the 30th Awards, Avatar won all 10 awards it was nominated for. Numerous other awards, nomination honors were received. With a worldwide box office gross of more than $2.7 billion, Avatar became the film of all time, surpassing Cameron's previous blockbuster, Titanic, $2 billion. Two sequels to Avatar were initially confirmed after the success of the first film. The, this number was subsequently expanded to with, with, with Cameron said to be directing, producing, and co-writing all of them. Many of the stars from the original film would reprise their roles, including Zoe Saldana, Johnny Ribisi, C.C.H. Pounder, and Joel David Moore. Despite the deaths of their characters in the original film, also making Kate Winslet, Reef People, along Chaplin as Rang, a central character who spans the entire actor sequels. The Avatar movie and featured heavy use of capture. Wonderful performance for it. to develop new captures would also and be another first in film history. Following by sequels back, the COVID crisis caused yet further delayed production. Avatar 2 would be from its followed by Avatar 9. Science fiction epic reaches its conclusion in 2039, 6 years later than the orders of magnitude more advanced than in 2009, making the visual effects in the more setting a new for CGI. And yeah, I would love to hear the I do. I agree. There you go. I'm watching and wondering. I know, and I think it's interesting that you'll become a rare luxury. Perhaps that's unfortunate. Uh, Also, I think it's fascinating. Something that is never Bangkok being abandoned due to flooding. Uh, Hopefully, they're able to find help the people there. Stem cell pharmacies becoming commonplace, quite interesting. Married couples being a minority in UK, things that I anticipate will become a developed world, and uh, perhaps the internet for it to be done with. Where does next year? All right, so we're going to out there. And the thing that we do at always at let's get it done. If I have a suggestion, I mean, I'm single thing, so all you have to go along. Way it's look at your camera. Camera's like right. If you move your camera down, but yeah, you don't want to have your camera be like going to be like, wow, you can't see my face or my mouth. The top of your head is. You look. You look. Anything's better than cutting you off here. No, it's worse. Yeah, you look dark. Much better. Okay, are you ready? Are you ready? Welcome to 22. 2032 will be a leap day under. Need to get that on the screen. Welcome to 2032, starting on the Common Era, the third year of the third millennium, the 21st century, and the third year of the 2030s. And January 1st, assuming no further extensions to the books, works by authors in 1961 will enter the public domain of the European Union and including Phantom, the Green Hornet, of 2350, the 20th handball expected to happen in France on February birthday George Washington. March the Sydney Harbour Bridge, the 2002 scheduled to be no less than 5 terms in 2020 expired. To co-host the FA 32, August Australia. August 4th, September 4th, parallel to be in Brisbane. November 2nd, the 23rd, scheduled to be honored first, December 19th, the Women's Handball Championship is expected to be held in November 22nd. The worldwide, which had an on scale from January 20 February 20th, the lunar lander currently in South is launched. Small space study ground and to be launched. And that 2030 to transition from 2032 to Some events that to the end host the summer Cena completed, the materials are rented. British space Australia, one third of Saudi Arabia's fleet, transit of Mercury, close approach asteroid 24 hard for communication. 7 we anticipate ice to battery the majority container ship rapidly away from the tradition. ICE full both and retrofitted on battery energy density values and available and attract much attention for going electric. Opportunities in cargo transport appeared less obvious. Battery expensive and practical. In reality, however, land in terms of disruptive trends and a major of its own. Short optimization and and American organization sulfur content of fuel from 3 which came into the long haul electric and energy storage to accomplish 100% had been developed care and American company Kong's 5 kilometers around the using 7 megawatt cargo capacity, 8-foot equivalent of only 79 meters or feet, improved the zero emission cargo shipping and companies cargo emission a goal of moving 40. The shipping group announced hundreds of offshore charging stations around vessels to power themselves instead of fossil. Another company began 25 distant swapping enabled smaller ports as and exchange G density led to battery electric during the second between the economic 6,000 kilometers class advances in the 30s. An additional economic profit would be health impacts incurred during a ship's life cycle, which studies shown to be 12 times higher for heavy oil